Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy, and we are here with author Corinne Michaels today. So, hi, thanks for being here.
I am so excited we were able to do this today.
Us too,
Yes.
especially Mandy. I can see it on her face. She's already freezing over there.
I'm very excited.
I know.
Okay. I feel like I could probably answer these questions for you, but I will refrain and let you do it. So, what types of books do you write and what are like the tropes?
So, I mean, tropes change with every single book,
Mhm.
and otherwise, I'd just be like writing on repeat. But I feel like I have like signature tropes that typically appear in most of them, which would be like small town, banter, and like high emotion. And even though those aren't really tropes, that's just kind of like overall theme. Although small town, I guess you could say, is a trope.
Mhm.
But for the majority, I write small town romance, and the tropes really do vary throughout the series. But usually it's based around a family or a group of friends. 90% of the time it's family, but this time I'm changing it up again. And so it's a group of friends. But yeah, so like the tropes are different because each character and their kind of story is a little bit different. So the tropes are they vary within, but I feel like it's always within that kind of like niche area of like that small town. Like even my suspense is still small town.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And I think I like it. The ones I first picked up, I think it was the Arrowwood Brothers is the one I first picked up.
Yeah.
We had all the brothers. And then I jumped into the one we were just talking about, the comeback,
Willow
Return
Creek.
to Us. Is it Return to Us?
Yeah, Willow Creek Valley, which would
Willow
have been
Creek.
like
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because we see Jessica at the end of that series. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I need this one. And then it just
Yeah.
spirals from there. You go down the
It
rabbit
does,
hole.
and I Easter egg a lot. So I think
Yes.
that that's also like the hard, or not the hard, but like the part where like a lot of readers get really excited because you kind of already know something and then you get weaved into another. So it's like
Yes.
a never-ending web.
But it's awesome because you're like, oh, I need that now. Oh, nope, I
Yeah.
gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
part of my plan.
Yes.
You also have the best amnesia trope book out there.
Aw, thank you.
I've never found another one that has captivated me quite like Help Me Remember.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Was that
you.
was that your first Corinne Michaels, Mandy, or had you read a few of hers before
I
that?
had read the first book in Arrow Brothers or
Yeah.
Arrowhead Brothers first, because that's when I first started reading, you're like, oh, you have to read this one. So I'd read that one, and then I think it was Help Me Remember, and then I kind of spiraled from there.
Yeah, I think I have a thing for Secret Baby. So that's where I was like, oh, you have to read this one.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I have like favorite tropes too. So like there are things like I love to write because it's just really enjoyable for me. And Secret Kid is one of those. I really like the dynamic, but it has to be done really specific for me. Like I have to be able to understand the motivation. So it's usually not something I feel like can be always done because you really do need to have a very good reason
a valid, yes.
why he doesn't know that this child exists. At least for me, like I just feel like for me, I don't like the secret part of it unless there is a valid reason and not just because he's an asshole.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Mandy's you talk about that all the time. I can kind of get away with it reading it and go, okay, I'll justify it. Mandy's a lot more strict about it than I am. So
I think that I just am in general just because I wouldn't want it done to my son. I think sometimes like that's the way my mind works is like I have to have the justifications really clear for me. And I don't know. But I approach everything with that same mentality is like, how would I feel if this was me? Or how would I feel if this was my family? Or how, you know what I mean? Like whenever I approach any storyline, I always have to know what the emotional values would be for me and how I would navigate that in the story.
Yeah.
But I love Secret Kid. I think there's something really cool about it. You know what I mean?
I really do. Yeah. And I like, I don't know if you've read this one yet, Mandy, and I can't remember the title of it. You'll probably just pop right off with it, Corinne, but it's the one where her husband dies and she has kids and she goes back home to the small town. The way the husband died was trigger happy for some people.
Say You'll Stay.
There you go. That one. I was like, I don't want to like give it all away, but yes. Yeah, that one was extremely emotional for me. I really enjoyed that one. And it was just,
that was another one of those, what would it, it happened to a close friend of mine, and I just could not stop thinking about it. So I was like, what would I have done if it was me? And that's how Say You'll Stay was born.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. Andy, if you haven't got to that one, if you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll talk about it after. You can just down on the list too.
On the down low.
I still have a few books of yours to read.
Yeah,
on your backlist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I mean, you probably remember what that was. Like, it's a pretty. That series is a very intense series.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, I still have a few on the backlist too. So you've got a lot of great ones out there. Mandy is actually mad at me because I haven't read Help Me Remember yet.
Oh, so. Yeah, but I mean, if you've read the Salvation series, you'll enjoy Help Me Remember more. Okay. If you've read the Salvation series, because they're
I read the second book. I read the book after Help Me Remember that series.
Like, why?
Don't ask. Why? Don't ask. I don't know.
So you read Give Me Love, but not Help Me Remember. I mean, well, then you kind of already know, because the whole story is like, that series is one I feel like you have to read in order. And I've always been really clear about that. Like, it is an intertwining arc.
Yeah.
Through the 3 books.
Yeah. And I think, I think because I read that, I picked up the second one and I was like, oh, I like it because she's kind of on the run, or, there's mystery going on here. But you kind of hear bits and pieces about what happened and Help Me Remember, where I'm going, okay, now I'm just going to put this down and forget about it and try to forget about it. So that I go back to Help Me Remember when I forgot what happened.
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah. Oops, my bad. But that's okay.
Jessica.
Sorry, Mandy.
She's like, I'm going to take care of this.
Exactly.
This is a real problem.
I'm going to be in trouble.
Do you have a favorite book you've written or a favorite character?
Oh, God. I don't know. I've written so many books now in 10 years. So it's kind of really hard for me to say, like, this is a favorite. Because I feel like every book that I write becomes my new favorite, and then I move on to the next one, and then that becomes my new favorite, and then that one. Like, I have ones that I definitely remember and I have very, very strong feelings towards and really strong emotional ties to. I would definitely say that, like, there are books that I'm just like, I love that book. And I think that Forgotten Desires is one of those for me. Like, I just love that book. And I think that I also have books that I don't love, that I didn't love for different reasons. So I don't know. Like, I think those are the ones that I remember more, or my feelings are different towards those. In terms of a character, I don't know. I mean, like, I have favorite heroes. I have like probably one from every series that I'm like, God, I love him. Like, oh, and I think I have the same with the heroines. Like, I'm like, oh, she's the best. But I don't know that I have one that's like held through the test of time. I think I have one from every series for each of that. And I have one book I don't like in almost every series, except The Whitlocks. I do not have a book in that series that I dislike, which is...
That was a fantastic series.
Thank you. But yeah, like, in that series, I don't have one that I'm like, oh, I fucking hate that book, or, oh, I hated that guy, or, oh, I hated this, or like, there's always something. And most of the time it's not even about the book. It's about like what I was going through in my personal life, or in like within situations like that were really difficult. So that book is like triggering for me personally. Or I just struggled to write, or the hero pissed me off, or the heroine, like, something happens that it's not necessarily I don't like the book. I just don't like something surrounding the book. Okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I usually have one from like every series that I'm like, it can go fuck off. So when people are like, oh, I one-starred that book, I'm like, I would have too. It's fine. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness.
Or like, I don't have that like emotional tie, but like when they hate a book that I love, I'm like,
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Who hurt you?
That was my favorite.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I love that book. How could you hate it? Like, and you get, whereas like when they say, like my assistant will tell you, like she'll like go through and they're like, you know, oh, this person like 2-starred this book. I'm like, that's fine. And like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It's not going to affect whether or not, like we do something or, you know, whatever. Like, I don't have that feeling towards it, which I know is crazy, but
it's good because for a lot of authors, they don't even look at their reviews. They don't, because it bothers them so much.
oh,
for me,
I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, no. We don't look, but we'll like when we're doing like ARC signups or things like that, like, you know, they do, they vet everybody that gets, you know, that gets an ARC or not. So when we look at those things, like we have parameters where they're like, oh, Corinne's okay with that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you can't please everybody all the time, right?
No. And I'm like, I get it. You know, sometimes it's not even the book. Sometimes it's your mood. Sometimes it's what you just read. Sometimes it has to do with what you're experiencing in your own life. I mean, reading, I love the saying when people say like, no two people read the same book.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think Mandy and I are both mood readers. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
It could have been my mood or it could have been the book. And I can't tell you because I was in a bad mood or it was the mood I was in or something was happening during that time or I just wasn't in the mood for it.
Yep.
But I picked it up anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I'm the same way. I'm a mood reader, which is why I reread a lot. Like I will reread the same stories over and over again because I already know I like it. And so if I don't like it at that time, then it definitely isn't the book. It's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. I reread a lot. Mandy over here doesn't.
I don't.
No.
Well, I mean, but that's just me. Like,
yeah, it's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay.
So if somebody is brand new, where would you recommend they start? I know on your website you have like a reading order, but is there a particular series you point them to?
I mean, I usually ask what they like. If somebody tells me like, oh, I like small town, I'm like, okay, start with one of the small town themed books. If somebody's like, oh, I really love suspense, then I'm like, start with the Salvation series. And then you can read, you know, Rose Canyon. Oh, my head just totally blank. You know, so I think that's like a lot of the thing too, is like, you know, what do you like? If you don't like emotional romance, please don't read these series, you know, or these books. But if somebody's like, no, I like to cry, I'm like, well, have at it. You know, here you go, pick your poison. So I do think that, you know, I think that really is the key. But if somebody's brand new, I always say start at the beginning. I mean, I think that starting at the beginning, especially for me, because I do Easter egg a lot, and I think you'll get to see those characters so much throughout all of my series. Like it's kind of fun. It's almost like getting to go back and visit with your friends over and over again. So I think that that's sometimes, you know, we usually will point people that way. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that like I have like a real like jump in point where I'd say like everyone should start here.
Yeah.
So our next question is if you can share what you're currently working on or any upcoming projects, which I know you have something coming soon.
Yeah, so All Too Well releases in September 18th. So I'm done with that one, and I'm writing now book 2 in that series, which is called Here and Now. So I'm in the middle of that book that I should have been done with in 2 weeks, and that's not happening. And yeah, that'll be fun. And so yeah, that's what I'm currently working on, book 2 in the Ember Falls series, which I'm like loving this town so much and having a lot of fun. These guys are really funny. And so it's been nice to have like just another lighter series instead of like writing the heartbreak, and which I think I will go back to after this series. I don't know. But for right now, I'm enjoying my lighter era.
And then do you typically plan your audio releases at the same time as the new release?
Yeah. I mean, I'm an audiobook listener. Personally, I don't eyeball read very often. So I'm usually just really excited to to listen to whatever. So I really do think about that when I go in and I'm planning out my schedule. That's why every time they're like, oh, will audio be at the same time? And I'm like, y'all, I've been doing this simultaneous release thing for 7 years. Like, I promise. Yeah. It's just Audible does not make it easy. You have to have the files first in order to put up a pre-order. Like, they're so strange about that. So, which, I mean, I guess I get it, right? Like, if you don't have the files, like, you can't release an audiobook. So, like, they want the files, which I get, but it makes it really hard for us because sometimes, like, we're chasing down files and working on things. So, but yeah, so I always have I like really, really, really always try to make sure that it's simultaneous. And if it's not, I would be very open and say, like, guys, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen this time for whatever reason. Like, I'm a little bit terrified for this book that I'm writing now, but we'll see if I can pull it out of my ass. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks.
Okay. But you always seem to get you always seem to get some of the fan favorites for audio narrators. So
yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of the blessings of being in this industry as long as I have I have the relationships with all of these narrators, and like I'm literally like friends with most of them. So, like when we were at the Canadian Rockies, like both my narrators for the next book were there. And I was like, okay, so I'm having a problem and I need to push and they're like, all right, we'll make it work. Don't worry about it. Like, you just worry about you. And like, I'm very lucky. And I'm very like, I like love these people, these guys and these girls like crazy. And so yeah, I'm very, very, and I think I talked about this in the panel. Like, we pick our narrators sometimes a year out. And I have been known to switch narrators, like Teddy was talking about it the one time. And I was like, just talking about me. Because I was like, this guy's not going to be Teddy. And so like I'll change narrators if I feel like it needs to be done. And I'm a little bit audiobook crazy. I really work really hard to make sure that the audiobook matches what I feel like the story is.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that because your audiobooks are always great. So
Thank
you.
Yeah. I mean, look, audio is a blessing in my life. So I really want it to always be the best it can be. And I always say a really good narrator can elevate a good story to a different level. And that's what I always try to achieve that. I want the narrator to bring it to another level if I can.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that the other day because there's some books that I've picked up that I don't know if they would be rated as high as I rated them if it wasn't for the narrators. Because when I listen to them, I can guarantee that if Teddy is narrating, it's an extra star right off the bat, no matter what the book is about. So Teddy's my favorite.
I love Teddy. I think he's so incredibly talented and versatile. And I think Jason Clark too. Like I think like, I mean, Jason, Zach, like the Teddy, and they're like some of, and actually I have a few really big favorites, but that's why they're all over my backlist. Like there's a reason why Jason Clark is like half my catalog, and same with Zachary Weber. Like, they really get my writing, and they enjoy they seem to at least enjoy narrating my books. So I feel like that also is a big thing. When you have a narrator who doesn't like a storyline, I feel like you can hear that. And so we also do a lot of, when we go to casting, I give like a trope line, and like, I know one narrator doesn't like to do former military guys. He just doesn't like it. He doesn't feel like he does it well. And so we don't give him those books. Yeah. He doesn't enjoy it. Why the hell would you make him read it?
Exactly.
Like, it's not going to be, he's not going to have fun with it.
Right.
Whereas I have other guys who love certain things. So we give them those. So I think that it's a lot of times like you and your casting director really working together to find the right narrator on the right book at the right time. And that can be really hard because, again, they're booking out a year in advance. So I'm just plugging names in, and then I'm like, let's hope this works.
Yeah. But I appreciate that you actually really think about your books like that, your audiobooks, because I think that makes the book sometimes. So, yeah.
Well, it can also make the book really hard to listen to if the audio is not good. There's been some times where I've been like, I can't listen to this book. I'm going to have to just try and read it.
I have like 2 narrators that do a lot of historical romance, and I just don't like their narration style typically. And I have to read their book. Like I have to go back and then I'll have to eyeball read it. And sometimes it'll take me a year before I can get that time. Or it just takes like for my husband to be like, no more computer and take away everything so that I just sit with my Kindle.
Yeah.
And and then I get to read those books, but I totally get it. And like we just said, a good narrator can elevate a book, but a bad narration can take a really good book and make it not so great. So, or sound so great. So then you have to go and read it, it's just part of what you have to hope for, when you're picking your narrators.
Exactly.
Yes. So how do you come up with your ideas?
I have no idea. I really don't. What is that? It's like there's a movie and it's a famous quote. Oh, it's from my favorite movie of all time, Empire Records. And they're like, where does your idea, and he's like, who knows where they come from? They just appear. And I feel like that's literally like my life. Like, I don't know where. Sometimes it's a song lyric. Sometimes it's a story on a Instagram post that somebody posts about something random. I just read a story yesterday of how these 2 people met, and I was like, oh my God, that's got to be a book. And like, for all the fuck I know, in 6 months, I'm going to end up writing it because I just really like the idea of it. And a lot of times it's personal life history, like small situations that I take and create into these stories. I look at pretty much every book I've written usually comes from something where I'm like, what would happen if, and then it goes off into this tangent, and then that's how the story ends up forming. It's something so small, something that can be so insignificant to anything and anyone. And for me, it just becomes this grand, ridiculous story. And my mom is like, she'll say to me all the time, like, I do not at all think that this wasn't where your life was going, because even as a little kid, like I would take things and like create these crazy stories out of them. And like my mom was like, where did she come up with this shit? And like, so yeah, I mean, I guess like it's just something very ornate in me is to, take something small and create this world from it. And I always had like these elaborate Barbie stories where like my Barbie, like most people probably had a Barbie and a Ken, and mine had Barbie and her 600 friends, and they were going to a concert and they were going to do, like, mine were just always so imaginative. And my mom was like, what's wrong with this kid? And here we are. So yeah.
Yeah. And I was, yeah, exactly. I was like, so the rest of us were just having Barbie and Ken, and it was their wedding day, and that was where it ended. Yeah. Yours just kind of went. So.
Mine were building an empire, and yeah, I mean, like it was just, it's just it was the way that I've just had a very overactive imagination since I was little.
Yeah, I love it though.
And my mom, I used to get in trouble for it though, so it was like not a good trait to have at like 6 years old. My mom's like, good God, where do you come up with this stuff? I'm like, well, I had a dream, and in that dream, this is what happened. She's like, okay, but that's not reality.
Yeah.
Now it is.
Now
it is. Oh.
Nope. There was all 3 of us. Did you go out black there too?
No, just you left.
Just me.
Yeah, just you.
We tell this to everybody. I live on the border of Canada and Washington. So like in my bedroom, which is where we're filming, my phone thinks I'm in Canada. And then when I'm in the living room, it thinks I'm back in the US. So there's times when the Canadian cell tower picks mine up, and we say Canada, they steal me all the time, the Canadians. So I mean, we do everything to try and counteract it, but every once in a while this happens. So
crazy.
It's my life. So I can see it. I can see Canada right now. So
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Canada.
There's a lot of dual stuff going on here. So typically dual citizenship stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow. All right. Back to it, Mandy.
Okay, next question.
Sure.
I don't know. We were talking about your ideas and your imagination, and I think you were kind of wrapped up on what you were saying, and I think you were mid-thought.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Like, that's fine.
Okay. So what do you like to do in your free time?
We have free time? Oh, I don't have free time. No, honestly, I don't. I am so boring. I'm like the most boring human. I don't do anything. Yeah, I suck. Yeah, no, I don't really feel like I have free time anymore. And I know that's insane to say and like absolutely sad, but I mean, I work a lot. I probably work like 13 hours a day on an average. Not just writing, but like the admin stuff and the everything else stuff. And yeah, so I don't if I had free time, I probably would read. Like I know that's so crazy, but like I love books. I've always loved books and I just kind of like live in books as much as I can. So yeah, I would probably spend my time reading when I'm not working. I usually am either watching TV or just chilling because I am so tired. So like I just want to rest.
Do you have a favorite TV show or just whatever's on TV?
Oh, I love Alaska shows.
Oh.
I am like obsessed with Life Below Zero and all of those like Alaskan like survivor shows.
Mandy said, I'm the Alaskan here. So that's what we moved to Washington from Alaska.
Oh, I love it. I literally like I will not I want to go, but I probably will never go because I'm so afraid I'm gonna get eaten by a bear. But
you're more likely to get trampled by a moose.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
I mean, there you have it. But yeah, I do. I watch like all those shows. My husband, every time like my kids will walk in, they're like, oh, here she goes again. I'm like, there's a new season.
Yes.
I'm like, this is 22 hours that I have to do nothing but watch this. It's happening.
Do it. I'm gonna put this out there right now. If you ever write a series that takes place in Alaska, please call me first.
I will. I probably won't. I do like, I'm sure you probably picked up on the jokes though. Like she taught my last heroine's like I think it was Brinley was like, I just want to watch Life Below Zero or something. She had like made like a small comment about like how she watched her Alaskan wilderness show. So she knows she could like survive in the woods. And I'm like, because this is what my husband, he's like, look, you don't have any skills to do these things. I'm like, no, but I watched her do it. She made a fire. And he's like, yeah, did she?
Yeah.
Okay, no. So it's like a running joke between us that I love them. I literally love them.
So when Ice Road Truckers used to be on, my husband was head dispatch for a big trucking company in Anchorage. And when it was on, he's like, oh, I know that guy. I know that guy. I know that guy. And then he'd be like,
but they're up in Ice Truckers is up in like the other side of Canada, like Quebec-ish.
Yeah, they also have them out of Fairbanks and Anchorage and stuff too. I think if I remember right, it's been years since I watched the show. But Jeff knew that he would know the trucking lines and he'd know the guys that were driving.
That's awesome.
But then he'd go, that's not real. They don't do that. They're staging that. That's not real. That's not real. So
I mean, I figure half of it's staged. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like I'm not, but I like it.
I know. And then when they had on, what was the fishing one?
Oh yeah, it's still on Deadliest Catch.
Deadliest Catch. So a lot of those boats, like the Cornelia Marie and the
Maverick, they're all out of.
I've been on all of those boats.
That's awesome.
So I knew, like when I was in my 20s and working at canneries and stuff. So it's interesting to see. But yeah,
I'm sure. But I love it. That's my guilty pleasure. That's my. I'm gonna sit and watch it because it's fun. It's different. It's a life that I could never even imagine. I don't do snow or cold.
Yeah. So
for me, that's just not the life for me. Yeah. But I think it's amazing and it's beautiful. And I really want to go on an Alaskan cruise and I really want to go and like see and do and like experience all of it. I just don't think I could survive there. I feel like, what do you mean Amazon Prime doesn't deliver in 12 hours?
Oh, they got Amazon Prime. You just have to live in one of the cities and not in like, and by
right. But then at that point, why the heck wouldn't I just live here?
There you go.
Where it's warm.
Yeah. It is a running joke between us that it's not even an actual joke, it's the truth. If somebody writes a book about Alaska and they do anything wrong, like I'm talking like the most minute thing, I will take the book down in a heartbeat. Like that is my big thing. So Pam Godwin, when she was looking for beta readers for this, I was like, hi for her new Frozen Fate trilogy. So that was.
Don't you think though, there's like, so this is where I would say like, I'm that way with military books, right? Like I was a naval wife for 13 years. Like I know like not everything, but I know a lot about the Navy, which is why my guys are usually former Navy, because I can write it very authentically.
You know that. Yeah.
But like my Navy experience isn't the same as somebody else's Navy experience. And so I always feel like there's a lot of like nuanced things that don't also make it in a book because nobody else would friggin' understand what I'm talking about. Like there's a lot of times I have to like demilitarize it because the average person who hasn't been in the military wouldn't understand that.
Yeah.
So like, do you feel like it's the same though for like Alaska, and like somebody else might not have the same lived experience with Alaska that you do?
It depends. Alaska in of itself feels like it's its own little world, and it's just got its own lifestyle, and it's really separate from the lower 48. So it depends on what it is. Like when I'm thinking like Pam's books, the things that would need, like she did her research, like she did an amazing job. They were little things like them going hunting and saying that they were hunting for elk or deer. Well, we don't have elk or deer in Alaska. You're hunting for caribou or moose, unless you're Sitka is the only island that has deer.
I was going to say there's one that's always on port protection and they have deer.
Yeah, I think that's Sitka.
It's like one little area though.
One. Yeah, so you can't, it's not a deer thing. It's going to be moose or bear or caribou or, you know, like those were the little things that I was like, okay, that's not going to be accurate or that.
No. And that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Those kinds of things. You know, there are a little, there's another book that we talk about quite often where the person, what was it? She had mittens on. Mandy's like, she was trying to be quirky. I was like, it was summer. She would not have had mittens on. I don't care where she was coming from. Those kinds of things drive me nuts.
Next question. So who are some of your favorite authors or favorite books?
I mean, so if we're going to go contemporary romance, I mean, obviously Melanie Harlow is one of my favorites. I co-wrote with her. She's one of my best friends. I think she's amazing. Like, if you were talking small town romance authors, honestly, there's such an amazing group right now of small town authors that I just like, I love. Sorry, I have like hair in my mouth and it's driving me crazy. I think that they're, you know, I mean, I would say like Laura Pavlov, Elsie Silver, Natasha Madison, Catherine Cowles, Samantha Young. I mean, like Elsie Silver. I think I said her already. I'm like, I don't even know. I mean, there's that group of authors who are just so fantastic and doing amazing things within the small town realm, and it's so fun to see like all these small town readers just like loving it too. I would say I primarily read historical romance, so my favorite authors are going to be in there in terms of my unicorns, and that's going to be like Sarah MacLean, Lisa Kleypas, Julia Quinn. I'm like looking up at my signed books, like who else do I have in there? So yeah, I mean, those are my favorites. I probably like filter through like 5 to 7 authors, like just over and over again. And I love, I just love that Regency era. So that's kind of usually my go-to. So yeah, I mean, I just think I think there's so many good small town romance authors right now that are like absolutely killing it. And I love every single second of it. I love watching it. And I'm so excited. Like yesterday I was on the phone with Laura and I was like, like, I'm so excited for her right now. And, you know, she was just that #1 in the store. And, and I just think she's such a great writer. So I'm so happy for her. And, yeah. And then Catherine's releasing soon and I'm super excited. I can't wait.
Yeah. Small towns.
I was just going to say, I always say that it's very dangerous to fall in love if you're in a Catherine Cowles book.
Yeah. She's brutal sometimes. I was like, man, But yeah, she's such a sweetheart. Like she's seriously one of the nicest humans. I spent my time in Canada with her and Lena, and Sam and Casey, and we just had such a great time. And ironically, they're all fantastic writers. So it's great. It was really great to like hang out and we all got to talk about, businessy stuff and plot stuff, which is always the best. Like there's something so amazing when you get to like be with your friends and be like, help me.
Yes.
Like fix my book.
Oh, I love that. I think, what were we talking about the other day? Samantha Young is what we were talking about, Mandy. Do you remember this? And we were trying to decide what would be, because you and I have only read that one book of Samantha Young's, right?
Which one?
I'm talking Beyond the Thistles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the other one? And we were like, oh, this kind of feels like it's like a setup for a Catherine Cowles situation. And we were having that conversation of where would you rather fall in love, in a Samantha Young book or in a Catherine Cowles? And she's like, well, Catherine Cowles has a lot of murder. Like, it's just not good. And I'm like, yeah, and Samantha Young's is in Scotland. So I'm going with Samantha. Even if there's murder.
I mean, the chances of death in a Catherine Cowles book is exponentially higher.
Yeah.
But she's also got great heroes that might just save your ass. So
exactly,
it's like a toss up, right? Like you're just not really sure which way you want to go.
No, yeah, it's a really hard one.
You have to read On Dublin Street,
and that's by
Samantha Young. On Dublin Street is probably one of my favorite books of all time.
Okay.
I read it back in like 2011, 2012, I think is when maybe 20, somewhere in that like real early books. It's old. It is like my, like when we were together, she was like, you will never get over Brayden and Joss. I'm like, never, never. It'll never happen.
I love books that are set in either Scotland or Ireland or, so I'm all of, all of
Me
it.
too.
Yeah.
I love Highlander romance. I read a lot of that too.
Yeah. Those are like bucket list places for me to visit someday.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to Rare.
I was going to say.
Yeah. I leave in like 2 weeks, but, and
yeah.
I'm so excited. My husband is, his grandfather was born in Ireland and then they moved to Scotland when he was like 6 months old or something. So he spent a good amount of his life in Scotland. So we're excited to go and like do some heritagey stuff. And, I told my husband, I'm like, just put a kilt on. And he's like, no. And I'm like, but it's getting in touch with your roots. I'm like, it has to happen. So that's our ongoing joke now, is that he's going to wear a kilt. And Kennedy Ryan's like, I'm here for every second of this if it happens.
My husband has a kilt. He's never worn it, unfortunately. Although he's got really thin legs. Like on leg day, like he's like, it doesn't. No, he had a personal trainer for years, and he's like, it's not working. So it's just not working. His legs are just thin. But my daughters and I did Scottish Highland dance for many years. And so we would go to the Scottish games, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, you have to, if we're wearing kilts, which are dance kilts, but if we're wearing kilts, you got to wear a kilt too.
Yeah.
And so he got it the Christmas just before COVID, before lockdown. And then things kind of fell apart after that. And there wasn't Highland games for a while, and it's a thing. So he hasn't worn his yet. But I really want to see him.
I think you're going to have to fix that.
I know, because that's like, even if it's just at home, that's just.
Yeah, I mean, like at some point it has to happen. I mean, otherwise you just wasted your money and nobody.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I'll get him into it eventually.
I love this.
We'll send the kids away and I'll be like, now put on the kilt.
Let's go. It's time for a Scottish Highland dance.
Exactly. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. So we know you write contemporary romance, but you said that historical romance is one of your favorites. Do you ever see yourself writing in that, or no? Keep it separate?
No, honestly, I don't want to have to first of all, I don't know that I don't necessarily know that I would want to write in third person. And most Regency romance or historical romances in third person.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then the second part of it for me is more that I want to continue to enjoy what I read.
Mhm.
And I feel like I started as a contemporary romance reader. I really, that was all I read. And I feel like I lost that joy when I started writing it because you don't really want to read what you're writing. And they're not because of any other reason. Sometimes then you approach it in a very critical mind and you don't mean to. It's just kind of like, well, I would have done this. Well, I would have changed that. Well, I would have had this. And that's not how I want to read. I want to read and just literally get lost in a book. So for me, not writing historical romance allows me a chance to just enjoy it and like wholeheartedly enjoy it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never the funny thing is like my brain doesn't even think about it. Like I'm not like, "Oh, I would love to write a duke who does this." Like I don't ever even have that like itch for it. Like I don't even have an itch for it. I'm just like, "Oh, if I want a duke, I'm going to go read this." Or, you know what I mean? Like I don't think about like, "Oh, I wish I'd written this." I mean, I do have a book that like I wish I had written because it's so good. But I don't want to write it.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, will we see you at any upcoming author signings?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like my September is out of control. So obviously we just talked about Rare, so I'll be in Edinburgh. And then I'm doing a mini tour for All Too Well. So with the release, I'm going to the Barnes and Noble in Fairfax, Virginia, and then I'm going to the last chapter in Chicago, and then the Ripped Bodice in New York, in Brooklyn. So I'll be at those. And then after that, I'm going to Novel Grounds with Natasha Madison. And then after that, I'm at Indies Invade Philly. So I have like a gauntlet for the next month and a half to 2 months of just absolute craziness travel. So yeah, that's after that, I don't have anything. I'm probably going to either we'll do another one for the next release, like a mini tour again, or we won't, and I'll just get to enjoy being home.
Take a little break.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you put out quite a few books in a year.
Yeah, I used to put out more and I slowed down this year, and next year, like I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna slow down again and just kind of go back to enjoying some time that I have. My kids are in college and they're not home, which one would think makes it easier to write, but they just call me all day now.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah. I have one that just graduated and he doesn't know what he wants to do. But my 17-year-old has been in college since she was a sophomore in high school. So she got into an early acceptance program. And yesterday in the car, she just get ready to technically start her senior year, but she has she took 2 semesters off because of some surgery last year. So she has 1 more semester and then she'll have her 2-year degree. And she's like, I think I just want to go straight to university. I don't want to I don't necessarily feel like I need to finish out my senior year. I just want to go straight to university. And then she got all teary-eyed because she's thinking about leaving her little sister who's a freshman. Aww. And I'm like, oh, I don't know that I can do this. Like, I don't know that I'm ready for this. Like, it is right here. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is a lot.
Yeah. So, no, I get it. Yeah. I got 2 of them in college and
Are they close or are they?
No. So my son is about 2.5 hours away. He's in state. My daughter is 4 hours away. She's down in North Carolina. So
yeah, my daughter will be 8 hours away.
Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard. But it's like part of what I have to let them do, I guess.
Gotta let them do it, but it's not easy to do it. So
no, for sure.
For sure.
Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Way to put me on the spot there.
I know.
No, I mean, I'm just I I'm just really excited for what's to come and the new stuff. And, you know, I hope that you guys get to go through some of the backlist stuff. And that way, I think like the frontlist stuff, you'll keep enjoying because you'll be like, oh, I know that guy. Or, oh, I know that girl. So yeah, I mean, I just really thank you guys for having me on here and getting to hang out and talk. And, like, I loved getting to meet you guys, and it was great. And I'm just glad that we were able to make this work today too. And so thank you guys for reading, and thank you for wanting to have me on here and talk and hang out. And I don't know, I still loved your guys' video. Your husband's, that was so cute. So
yeah,
I came home from Romance Invades the Rockies, and I was like, so there's this really famous author that I love.
oh my God.
And I was talking to her, and she's like, oh, I know you. And I'm like, and she really did know who we were because she referenced the video you're in. And she's like, oh, so I'm famous. And I'm like, you're missing the point.
That would be something my husband would be like, oh, so I'm the one that you're like, yes, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. And my husband's like, so we have to do that again?
Julia. You're like, no, but yes, actually.
But yes, yeah, we have
but
to
like
do something
actually
with you
that's
guys
really
again. He's like,
again.
do you really though? Do you really? So
well, I think it was great and it was funny, and I love that you guys are doing all these cool things. And you know, thank you for continuing to read and just being a part of it. It means the world to me, truly. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. When I reached out to you, I'm like, this is such a long shot that she's gonna say yes. And like you responded so quickly. I was like, oh my gosh. I called Jessica and I'm like, she said yes.
Yeah, if I can do it, I always try. Sometimes it just doesn't work in my schedule. But right now is just like I have like a little window before I start my travel nightmare.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just so glad that we were able to make it work and that we were able to get it so that it didn't take into your back to school stuff.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, of course.
So what would be the best way for readers to connect with you?
I mean, I always say the best way is probably email if they had to. But you know, I'm everywhere. I'm on social media. I'm, you know, on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and you know, my website's always a great tool because usually we try to keep everything up on there. But you can always reach me through my contact form on there too. So yeah, I mean, probably Instagram is where I'm the most, or Facebook. My Facebook group, I'm like super active in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Yes.
We had a lot of fun.
Oh, me too. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad we could make this work. So, all right, everybody else out there, thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.